is leading Pakistan more into global politics. I like the global outlook that Imran Khan has, the strategic allies that he is seeking to strengthen Pakistan.
Today we have the opportunity to meet with the renowned British journalist, author, TV presenter, media consultant, scriptwriter, and she is very long introduction. And she is specialized in the Middle East affairs. We will try to find out how she views the relation of the Arab countries with the Israel. Hi, good evening. We are very thankful to you that you manage your precious time for our VeryNewsy network.
Yes, my pleasure.
So first of all, we would like to talk about the, as you know, the recognition of the four Arab countries with the Israel. So as we all know, the Israel have been fighting with the Palestinian for 7 decades over the claim of the Holy Land, the longest running conflict in the world. Now, the Israeli stock supporter USA produced a so-called document named Deal of the Century, which is purely against the Palestinian, which has rejected by the Palestinian and some other countries. So, what do you think? And in after that situation, the Middle East is changing dramatically. What is going to happen? What do you think about it?
Well, the deal of the century was never lived up to its name. It was never going to live up to its name, primarily because in the negotiating team there was one group absent, and that was the Palestinians. So how you can negotiate a deal when 50% of the party is absent is anyone's guess. So the deal of the century was really something that the Donald Trump administration wanted to deliver to Israel, not just for the pro-Israel lobby, but for the Christian Zionists. And they number more than 50 million in the US. And it was quite clear that the Trump administration was counting on this huge swathe of voters to sweep Trump in for a second term in the White House. We now know that didn't quite work, but that was what was behind the move for the deal of the century. It was for the benefit of Trump's friends in Tel Aviv. It was for the benefit of the Christian Zionists in America. It was for the benefit of the pro-Israeli lobby. It was for the benefit of Donald Trump. The only losers in this deal of the century were, of course, the Palestinians. And that is probably why they, quite wisely, in my view, refused to take part in any of the negotiations. I find it incredibly sad that some of the Arab countries supported the deal of the century, because this certainly did not benefit the Palestinians. And to me, it just served to expose the fracture lines in relations across the Arab world, which is quite disunited. There's no unity there. There's no spirit of brotherhood, sisterhood across the Arab world. And I was really sad to see the UAE, Bahrain, Sudan's interim government, and the Moroccans all agree to normalize relations with Israel. It wasn't for the benefit of the Palestinians. It wasn't even for the benefit of the Israelis. Each of those Arab nations were rewarded in some way or another. We know that the Moroccans were rewarded by Trump recognizing the Western Sahara as being part of Morocco. And we know that Sudan had its international bar lifted by the US for trading as a reward as well. Quite what the rewards for the UAE and Bahrain were, I'm not sure, but we'll probably find out later that some other behind the scenes deals were done. Um, the deal of the century, in my view, has no foundation, has no honour, and it's a stain on those Arab countries that signed up to it.
But the administration of Donald Trump, they don't care about the situation what you have discussed here, and many countries has rejected it categorically. But they are continuously force the other countries to impose their orders or what they want. So what actually they want to find, they want to get by that document. As with the Trump administration recent move to recognize the Morocco sovereignty over the Western Sahara, it was a major step to forward it as they shattered the hope of all those who have long sought independence for decades. Is that the part of that?
Well, you know, Donald Trump is no respecter of international law or the United Nations. And let's just remember that Israel has violated more rules, regulations, and sanctions imposed by the United Nations than any other country in the world today. So basically, what we have is a small group of heads of state who have basically trampled over international law. And Donald Trump is one of the worst offenders. He has declared the Golan Heights in Syria as a legitimate Israeli territory. He has given Jerusalem or recognized Jerusalem to Israel. These are, and he's turned around against the United Nations and recognized Morocco as the rightful holder to the Western Sahara. These are all inventions of one man, Donald Trump, who has no moral authority, has no legal authority, and has no international standing at all. Quite where the world will be positioned after January the 20th, when he is finally booted out of the White House, is anyone's guess. The United Nations have said that they don't recognize any of these things that he's done. So, you know, it will be interesting to see what happens with the Joe Biden administration. Will we revert back to the time before Trump, or will Biden continue on this disastrous course set by the deal of the century? It's anyone's guess at the moment.
So, what do you see as the role of the newly elected US President Joe Biden? The media report says, unlike his predecessor, Joe Biden is not entering office with the plans to launch a major Israeli Palestinian peace initiative. There is no talk to reaching the ultimate deal as the Donald Trump described as a 2016 or I think 2016. And there is no intention to appoint as a special envoy for Middle East on his first day in office as Barack Obama did in 2008 or 9. Is that so? How you see that the the policies is going to be changed
Well,
as the Joe Biden said?
let's not get too misty-eyed about the departure of Donald Trump and the arrival of Joe Biden, because I do not see Joe Biden as being a great friend of the Palestinians. You know, this is a man who had served in previous administrations where disastrous decisions have been made to the detriment of Palestine. So quite what he will deliver on January the 20th is anyone's guess. Will he unrecognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel? Will he turn around and be quite harsh with the Israelis and say that they can't take any more of the West Bank. They can't land grab or thieve any more land from the Palestinians. It's hard to know how he will react when he takes office. I would like to think that he will tear up all these nonsense treaties that have been signed by Donald Trump, because in essence they are meaningless. Recognizing the Western Sahara as belonging to Morocco. America is virtually alone in this decision, whereas the rest of the world is not. Algeria and other countries are supporting the Polisario movement.
Yeah, the people who live there, they want the independence, and they want they are claiming or fighting for many decades. Western
That's
Sahara.
right. You can draw parallels between the Western Sahrawi people and the Palestinians. They all want self-determination. They all want an independent state and international recognition. Now, at the moment, Donald Trump has just torn that up. Years of negotiations. So I hope that the United Nations moves forward quickly to pressure the new president of the United States to tear up or start again with all of these very silly and unlawful treaties that Donald Trump has created.
Okay, now I would like to broad the canvas and wants to understand the actual situation. By our analysis, we have the witness that the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas has met these several Hamas may meet with the Russian authorities. Recently, the delegation reached the Russian capital and meet with the Russian authorities. They have been warmly welcomed by them. Can Russia play an extraordinary role in the situation in the Middle East? As we have seen that few days ago, the Russian ambassador to the Israel, in an interview, he said the Israel is the responsibility all kind of its uncertainty and security in the region. So, do you think that is that the comprehensive move by the Russia, and can Russia play any role to maintain the conflict between Palestinian or Israel?
Well, the international players shaping the Middle East are changing, partly because of the antics of Donald Trump. You mentioned Hamas. Hamas have been sidelined and outlawed in many ways by Saudi Arabia, which used to host many Hamas supporters. They've now started locking them up and creating all sorts of kangaroo courts and trials that would have no standing or authority on the international stage. But Hamas is an interesting political party in itself. It's obviously recognized that it's at the moment not going to benefit greatly with a relationship with Saudi Arabia, and so it has gravitated to other areas to seek support from other leaders. Hamas at the moment is warmly supported by Turkey, by Russia. They've reached out to Iran, and they are busy reaching out to all sorts of other international players, and it's working very well for them. You've mentioned the Russians. To have the Russians on your side, whether you like them or not, they are certainly a force to be reckoned with and cannot be ignored. The Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, has shown that he is a major voice in the Arab world as well as in the West. And and he's also prepared to link up with the Russians, but he's also prepared to stand up to them as well. And he does it in a very clever way. So, I think that the regional powers are changing and may shape and influence the next stage of the Middle East. America is certainly on the outside looking in at the moment. It's withdrawing its troops from Syria, from Iraq. It's pulling out of Afghanistan, and a lot of people will be glad to see the back of them there. So America is at the moment is becoming less of a major influence in those areas.
So, don't you think that, as you know, that as you told me that about the Syrians, the American troops in Syria, there is a mutual interest in Syria. Russia and Turkey has a mutual interest in Syria, and there is a NATO or an American forces over there. So, how you see that? And the Russia is supporting the Hamas and Palestinian cause, and they are just warmly welcomed many times. So how you see that situation can play? And there is one more thing. What I can say that the Russia and the Turkey has appointed the newly ambassador to the USA. I mean, sorry, to the Israel. So how you say that it may change the situation because the interest there is an interest.
I'm eternally optimistic about Palestine, not because of the Arab world, not because of their friends in Russia or Turkey or elsewhere, but because of the Palestinian people themselves. They are determined for the right of return. Their focus has never changed. They want their lands back, and their resistance and determination will see them get their goals in the end. And I feel quite convinced by that. They're not going to get deliverance from the Arab world. They've been let down, betrayed, and backstabbed by some of the Arab nations. That's quite clear. It's encouraging to see that the Pakistan leader Imran Khan is standing firm with the Palestinians, as is the Turkish president, and at the moment, so is Russia. But I'm confident that this cannot be allowed to drag on the way that it has over the decades, and I am quite confident that the Palestinians will get justice, not because of who their friends or foes are, but because of their own determination to get justice in the end.
As you mentioned the name of Imran Khan, so do you think that this situation, Pakistan can play any role in this regard, as Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan categorically denied the recognition of Israel? So how you see that the position of Pakistan?
I see that Imran Khan is leading Pakistan more into global politics. Before, previous leaders have become more immersed in internal politics in Pakistan, and that has not served the country well. But I like the global outlook that Imran Khan has, the strategic allies that he is seeking to strengthen Pakistan. A strong Pakistan would serve the world well. A Pakistan that is riven with internal strife serves no purpose at all. And I just think that Pakistan could have the potential to become a major source of influence if somebody with the ambitions of Imran Khan is allowed to develop and grow along with his country. it's no secret I'm a big fan of Imran Khan. I like his style of politics. I like his straightforward way of uh, of dealing. And I think that Pakistan is like a sleeping giant. It's never been allowed to reach its full potential. But I really think with someone like Imran Khan, who has the global vision as well as the local ambition, I think that Pakistan could be a great country.
Yeah, inshallah. And in terms of your own analysis, what change you see short term as well as the long term in the overall scenario of the Middle East and one of the world as whole in the addition, how these recent development will especially impact the resolution of Palestinian issue. Will there any progress in this regard? If so, it's gonna have the positive or negative.
Well, I don't want to say too much because we still have 35 days left of Donald Trump, and he is a loose cannon. He has shown himself to be capable of plumbing the depths of dirty politics, and who knows what direction or damage he could do next. Clearly, he's not reined in by international opinion. He's not reined in by NATO or the United Nations. And I think the next 35 days, can't, you know, who knows what Trump will do next? It could be a very frightening time for the world. The sooner that we get into the Biden administration, the better. Although, bearing in mind, Biden was the vice president under Obama, and countries like Pakistan certainly did not benefit from the Obama administration. I'm thinking in terms of the drone wars and the military strategy of America back then. These are uncertain times. Let's get over these next 35 days, see the back of Trump, and let's see what sort of president Joe Biden is going to make. You know, because America was regarded as a world leader in so many ways. That reputation is in tatters now, thanks to the Trump administration. But let's see how Biden is going to act in the future. And in the past, Pakistan has never really benefited from America, which has bullied and cajoled and forced its will in many ways on Pakistan. But I think the climate could be different now. Imran Khan has proved that he's a leader who can articulate and engage with the West just as comfortably as he can with the East. He's a man of all seasons.
Let me ask you bluntly, what Israel actually wants? What do you think?
Israel wants the land from the river to the sea. That is essentially what it wants.
Greater Israel
It's
can have
probably it's probably the only country in the world where nobody can draw a map because we don't know where it ends, where it begins. It is occupying illegally so many different lands in Lebanon, lands in Syria, chunks of lands across the occupied West Bank, which make it impossible to have a two-state solution. So yes, the way that Israel is developing and expanding and growing, I think it's safe to say that their ambitions stretch from the river to the sea.
Four Arab countries suddenly recognize Israel, as we all know, the one after the other, and now the South Asian countries, Bhutan, has also recognized Israel. Do you think that is the last 6 months all these countries have recognized Israel at once, or it is the comprehensive plan?
No, I don't for one moment think that Israel could have imagined uh, this normalization of relations. But at the same time, these are all prickly regimes, and they can turn on a penny. You know, their policies could change very quickly, and so I think at the end of the day, it's more or less meaningless.
Actually, I do not want to end this session, but unfortunately, our guest has a short time, so that's why we have to wind up today. And I'm really grateful for you, your precious time for us, and inform us of the realities of the Middle East that are so important to understand.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me onto your show. Inshallah, I'll be invited back again soon. Thank you so much, Mr. Asghar. I've really enjoyed the discussion.
And I would like to disturb you again in the future, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Salam alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Today we had British journalist who shared her valuable thoughts on Middle East and recognition of some Gulf countries. Stay tuned for more expert opinion. Thank you.